are snipers on the roof. They're blocking Mrs. Cherney from getting into the lot. And I'm like, I know, but your dad is here for parent-teacher conference. Ignore it. Just keep going. This isn't about you. He's the president. This is your dad's job.
Is somebody going to cue me or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. I'm so nervous. I'm just really nervous. Well, everybody. We are back with season 3 of Let's Talk Off Camera. So let's get talking. Season 3.
We turned 3.
Season Trace. This is a big first episode.
I know,
Jan,
right?
let me congratulate. Let's hear it for Jan Chalet, everybody. First episode of the first season. I like the sound effects. You want to learn those buttons, Seth? I'm glad they gave you a setup for sound effects. Try it again. Okay,
Do you want to hear
like
them all?
that.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to use that one for Lola. We'll use that one for when Albert asks a food question. Okay, that's for anytime I say anything that makes me laugh. The reason we're all patting Jan on the back, and now Seth for finally figuring that out, is because we are continuing with our first theme with the former First Lady of the United States of America, Michelle Obama, is here, yes. And she does not come alone. She's coming with her big brother, Craig Robinson. Does it get bigger than that? I mean,
Good first episode.
for anyone else that's just tuning in, if you were referred to us by a friend, a family member, and you're saying to yourself, why should I listen to this off-camera podcast? And well, number one, it's off-camera, so you don't have to look at any of us. And I find that soothing. And number two, we started this podcast as just a talking out loud think project in my dressing room. And by we, I mean Jan and Albert, and I will introduce you new listeners to Jan and Albert in a second. But we decided that the most interesting conversations we have with celebrities and experts in their fields always happen off camera. We don't know what that is, so that's why we keep this podcast off camera. You don't have to look at us on TikTok. You don't have to look at us on the gram. You don't have to look at us at all. We are where we are meant to be, which is off camera. Jan and Albert have been my producers, my long suffering producers. I mean, the longest suffering people. You think Moses had it bad? Meet Albert and Jan, okay? Jan and I have worked together for 25 years. Albert, you and
24.
I... 24. Okay, sorry. Seth, how long have you been with...
16.
16. You're the new kid on the block.
The baby.
So that's how this podcast came to be. We discovered that the most interesting things we found out about people always happened when the cameras weren't rolling. And so here we are. Now, I understand that there are changes to this here little podcast. What are those changes? Albert, Jan, anyone?
No, Albert, fill her in. I mean, this is big.
So it's a big deal. There will be live podcasts happening this year, every other week.
Oh, shit.
On Radio Andy.
On Radio Andy.
Yeah, they'll air on Radio Andy, and then they'll be in the podcast feed the following week.
That is outrageous.
I think our guests are ready.
Is that true? I don't even know if I'm ready for this.
No, come on.
Am I going to call her Michelle?
Yes, you're calling her Michelle. You've
And
met her a million times.
I know, but I've always called her Mrs. Obama because that felt very proper. Do I open this?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to do it?
For you.
Okay. Oh, my gosh.
Here we go.
Oh, my gosh.
Wait a minute.
Hey.
This is, okay,
Yeah,
let me...
Oh, you need to see. You can't see.
Yeah, I can't
Lord.
see, but
Uh-oh.
let me just tell you something. Let me tell you something. This is
Just
not how I
hold on.
wanted this to go.
You sound like that Instagram. Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something. Let me introduce our two guests here. We have Craig Robinson and
Yay.
his little sister, former First Lady Michelle Obama, is here. My forever first lady, if I may. You're my forever first lady. We're going to forego with all of the formalities. And Jan tells me that I should just call you Michelle.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
Wow, you're the first person to just come right in and call it Michelle.
look,
Kelly.
Kelly,
I asked permission.
we have enough history, right? We've double dutched.
We
We've
have.
done lots of crazy things together, I think, by now.
Let me tell you something, Craig. I'm going to give you a little history on your sister here. And Michelle, it's still so hard for me to say that.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. That's my name.
Okay. You probably have forgotten this or blocked it out, but we did a run across America and we ran to the White House the morning after it was announced that Osama bin Laden had been killed.
Oh, my.
Yeah, that's hard to forget. You know?
And I was like, guys, pack up. This is not happening. We're clearly going home. They're going to turn us away. And you were like,
It was a covert mission. We were all supposed to be behaving normally, and canceling things would have been a red flag, even welcoming you from a run across America.
I'm very excited that the two of you are embarking on a podcast together. And I am fascinated by your sibling relationship. I just want to know what your dynamic is, and have you always been this close?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
I have always looked up to my big brother because Craig Robinson is probably one of the nicest people that I know.
Aw, that's sweet.
That's for real, you know?
That's sweet.
And he was always a caretaker of me. We're only a year and a half apart, but he's such a serious little man. He's like a worrywart, and I was his little assistant in life.
In everything.
Yeah.
She was my partner in crime, Kelly. So
Did she
if
protect you, Craig?
Oh yeah, she did. From when she was like 2 years old, she would always be a protective little sister. But she was also she was adventurous, right? So if I said, let's go in the backyard and dig up worms, she'd do that. If I said let's go to the park and play baseball, she'd do that. And if I said, hey, jump on your bike with your little bitty training wheels and we're gonna ride up and down the block and maybe even go around the block, she'd be like, okay, and just come right along. And being able to do this with her is just such every time we get a chance to talk about it like this, it just warms my heart because, over the years we've had our lives and our kids and we've moved apart and we're not as physically close together. But now I get to see her very often when we do this. So I'm just thrilled to be able to do this.
Kelly, can I tell a story about Craig that
Please.
gives you a sense of who he is? He's always been beloved, especially by the little girls in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I think he was in first grade because I still wasn't in school. Maybe it was kindergarten. And we went to the school around the corner from our house, and he would walk home every day. But it turned out that every little girl in his class had a crush on him. So their response to that crush was they chased him home in packs, like screaming fans. Mm-hmm. And you'd see Craig with his little backpack tearing around the block, just running for his life with this pack of girls screaming like he was Michael Jackson. And I would stand at the gate with my mom, who understood what was going on, but I didn't like it. Yeah. And I thought these girls were going after him, and my mom had to settle me down because I was going to get out there and fight every last one of those girls. And I was like, you better stop chasing my brother. They were all crushing on him.
Of course. I mean, look at him. Jan, can you see Craig?
Jan, I've got a face for radio, Jan.
What? Not true. You married a Kelly from New Jersey?
Yes, I did marry a Kelly from New Jersey.
And give me the essence of I, too, am a Kelly from New Jersey.
So your face is on our television every day because she absolutely loves you. And she is your typical Kelly from New Jersey. She is loyal, tough, family oriented, and she keeps us all in line. Mish will tell you, she could work for Mish.
I have offered her a job.
He has,
She's
but
essentially his chief of staff. And I was like, Kelly, you could make a lot of money with what you do for this dude.
Michelle, you don't know this because you have 2 daughters, but you don't understand the difference. And I hate to gender stereotype, but I do it every week. Boys seem so slow.
They are helpless creatures.
They are
confused in the world.
Confused, lost in the world. This is my adult. By the way, we are broadcasting this podcast from my son's former bedroom. Now, this is an adult man. He no longer lives here, by the way. He no longer lives here. He graduated film school. And I just want to show you the things that keep showing up here that he orders. He orders these things.
My man.
He doesn't have room in his 1-room apartment in Brooklyn. So things just
show up like that. What is that? Man, I don't even know what that is.
That's Boba Fett, I believe.
That's Boba Fett's helmet. She doesn't know about Boba Fett.
Don't know what this is. I'm sure this was expensive. I don't know.
So he collects toys.
He collects toys. He's 27 years old.
Those are pieces of art. They are not just toys. They're
all right,
that's
Craig.
Artwork.
Whatever you say.
That is
Spoken
artwork.
like a boy. Spoken like a boy.
Michael's much younger sister, Lola's 23.
Okay.
I think is Sasha or Malia 23?
Sasha's 23. Malia is 27, going on 28. Help me get that right with my menopause brain. How old are my kids, Craig?
Same.
They're 3 years apart, so she'll be 29 this year, or 28 this year, and Leslie will be 29.
You mean that? Okay, this is all of us getting, because Leslie is your daughter's name, Craig.
Right.
Daughter.
Yes.
Then
my daughter. That's how I know how old your daughters are. And then we have Avery and Austin and Aaron. So we have 3 boys and 1 girl. And to your point, Leslie runs those dudes.
Yeah.
She's the second oldest, and they do whatever she says.
But you don't know what it's like to have a boy first and then have the girl. And then Mark and I were like, we need to have him tested because something is wrong.
See, but this is what I wonder. Is this generational? Because I don't remember Craig being that helpless, because my mother really didn't allow him to be that helpless. So I do think I see that in sort of our generation of boys. My mother demanded that Craig would be highly functional. Yeah. So he had to set his alarm, make his bed just like I did. He had a set of chores, a set of responsibilities, did his laundry. Now I think he's become way more helpless as he has become
as I've gotten older.
Learned helplessness.
If you hear her talk about what my brother, how dumb he's become, I'm like, well, what happened to you over the years?
But here's the thing. I think that Craig is smart. Like, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Craig is obviously smart because of his career pivots, the way he's managed his life. And I say this about Michelle, your husband as well, and my husband as well. I'm going to include all of the husbands in this. They are smart. Obviously, they are learned people. Obviously, they know what they're doing. Obviously, and when they don't have to know what they're doing, they are tiny newborn babies that can't. Where's the milk? Oh, I don't know. Where would one keep milk if one needed? You know, how does the coffee maker work? They're
used to asking out loud as if posing the question to the universe will bring answers, and oftentimes it does.
Right.
You know, Barack asked a question looking around, where are my blank? And I'm like, did you look? Have you raised up a book? Have you moved a drawer? Now, the first approach is to ask someone to get it done.
I would be the person, if I were Barack, and for that matter, you, I would be like, where's Secret Service? Can't they get this stuff? Bring it to me.
Well, that was a good thing about the White House.
Right.
Somebody
People do things.
You know, right. And so Barack, he'll make the statement that I'm really neat. My closet's really neat. I was like, dude, no, your valet keeps your closet neat. Because I lived with you before the White House. My husband was the kind of person, he would hang his suit jackets on the door, on the ledge of the door, so that you couldn't close the door. That was his idea. I was like, do you remember that you were that person before you became the president of the United States? So all this tidiness, that's not you, dude. Those are the people around you.
And how is it? And how is it now? Has he gone back to the early years, or is it more like now he's?
It's somewhere in between because he's experienced neatness and he likes it.
Yes.
He likes order. But somebody has to kind of set it up for him, and then he can maintain it roughly.
So wait a minute now. At the defense of the gender, I have to say that sometimes we say things out loud because you all say we don't talk enough, and we're just trying to get the whole community in on the thought process.
Asking for stuff isn't communicating.
It is to us.
Not
it
the
is.
communicating
It's
what
a
we're
way
looking
to
for.
communicate.
It's not what
It's a
we're-
way to communicate.
A way to communicate is you get the thing that you're looking for all by yourself. And then maybe you bring us one too.
And then we offer you some. Yeah.
Maybe we want some. And
then
we
guess what
sit
we'll
down.
do? We'll talk about how wonderful that is. And
Yes, and we'll talk about how thoughtful you are. And we're
So Kelly, this is how our show goes, right? We have a guest on.
I'm getting
and
a window into the show.
And I am defending the men.
So, okay, in defense of the men, I would think that when you have a brother that is on it, and he's a basketball player and he's got a lot going on, he's a smart guy, and you are dating. What was that like bringing dates around? Was it a terrifying experience?
it wasn't that bad because I was probably pickier than they would have been. And it took a lot for me to bring a guy around. I mean, I would date people, but it wasn't until I thought that they were presentable that they come around. But my dad and Craig I wanted them to meet these people. I mean, the story goes when I met Barack and I started getting serious about him, I had a conversation with Craig. Why don't you, Craig, tell them what I asked you to do?
Misha's right. Like she was so picky with guys. It was like when she finally brought one around, we were like, oh boy, okay. All right, at least she can get a boyfriend every now and then. But when she met Barack, this was a guy, she kind of liked him. She told us about him, but she didn't bring him around right away. And then when she brought him around, we met him, and I remember when Mom and Dad first met him because we used to have this really nice screened in front porch that we'd sit in at our house because we didn't have real air conditioning. So we sat out there because it was nice and cool. And she came pulling up in her Saab 900 with her new boyfriend getting out of the car. And I remember Mom said, "Ooh, at least he's tall." So we fast forward ahead after she's kind of dated him for a month or so, and she comes to me and she says, hey, Craig, can you do me a favor? I know how you and Dad always talk about you can tell a guy's personality by playing pickup basketball. Would you take him to play pickup basketball? And I was like, no way. I am not doing your dirty work for you. I mean, because she didn't have boyfriends for a long period of time, right? She's like, do something like hang his coat on the side of the door and she kick him out. Then I said, I'm not doing your dirty work. She's like, please, you got to do this for me. I really like this guy. I want to know what you think. And Kelly, you got to understand now, I mean, I didn't play in the NBA, but I played professionally overseas. And so the guys I play with are like real dudes. They're real basketball players. And you take a guy who, can't play that well around, he's undoubtedly going to look bad and then get talked about. And so I had to put together a group of guys that I thought he could play with. So I finally say yes and do this and put together this group. We played a pickup game and he was absolutely appropriate, right? Like in pickup basketball, it's not officiated. So you have to call your own calls so you can tell if a guy's got some integrity, because if you foul a guy, you're supposed to give it up to him. Like, hey, hold up. I fouled you, here. You take it out. And he did that the right way. He took shots that he should take and he passed the ball when he should. So I could tell he was unselfish. But the best part was that he didn't just pass me the ball all the time because I was his girlfriend's brother. And, you know, I was really the real player out there. So he should have done that, but he didn't do it. So that tells me that, okay, he's got a little, he can stand alone, right? And so I reported back to Mish. I said, listen, you know, as far as I can see, he seems like a really decent dude. And he wasn't a bad player at all.
And that was a huge step in our relationship. I mean, we were doing great and I really liked him, but I liked that my brother respected him and that helped me see him in a different light, in a sporting light. And we were very much a sporting family, and how you show up in sports actually matters. So I wanted to make sure that this guy was growing to love was somebody that my brother respected.
And I like the fact that he was unselfish. He had integrity, all of the core values that you look for, like in a partner, because life is really a sports metaphor. I mean, there's not a sports scenario that you can't apply to any part of life. I want to fast forward. Now you're married. Life is good, double income, no kids. Then you start to have kids. You're settling down. Everything is going your way. He's getting into, public office, successful Senate run. He delivers that incredible speech at the DNC. He's just electric. It's all perfection. And then he says words. He says such dirty words. He says, I think I want to run for president. Now, what chill was sent down your spine? Now, what chill was sent down your spine? What happened? I mean, honestly, because we were just talking about it before you guys logged on, that I don't know what I would do, because we had 3 little kids, and I know my kids. My kids are not your kids. Your kids, by the way, are lovely, even when you're not around, because I've been around them. I've been around them when you're not around, and I'm like, these are good kids. Tell me about the fears, all of the fears.
I've said it before. It was a terrifying notion, and I think subconsciously I had been putting off the inevitable. Because politics wasn't new. He started out, he ran for state senate. I was involved in that campaign. He was a great state senator, ran for Congress, didn't win that seat. So then he had an opportunity to run for U.S. Senate. There was just this slow progression that I thought at some point would naturally come to an end. That, at the time he became U.S. Senator, he was the only Black U.S. Senator, the second one next to Carol Moseley Braun. And I thought when he entered that seat, and that was already difficult because we stayed in Chicago, kept our kids in school, and he commuted back and forth. I thought when he got that seat, we would at least stabilize there for a minute. But then the world happened, and he caught fire in a way that he didn't anticipate. I don't think anyone anticipated. And it just felt like it was too fast, too soon. It felt like it was too much, but I could feel it coming. I knew he was gifted and talented, but I didn't want to upend our lives. I was worried about my kids. Like you said, they were young. I didn't know what it meant to live in the White House, what it meant to just pull my kids out of the only school they had known, around their friends, their community. So I was probably more worried for them than I was for myself. And I worried that a run and heaven forbid if he won, what would that life be like for my kids? Would they get out of that hole and healthy? Would we manage so? And not to mention that he was getting death threats throughout the campaign. I mean, I think he had to get Secret Service early in the primary because he was running as the first Black person in a country that we now know is still not ready for diversity. So that was frightening, having Secret Service enter your world. So yeah, what was there not to be afraid of?
And Craig, as a big brother, what was that like for you to bear witness to it? I'm assuming that you had to be a constant source of strength, no matter how terrified you were, no matter what your thoughts were.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we haven't gotten a chance to talk about this much. So I'm going to share a story with you because I wasn't as worried or fearful as everyone else was. Because first of all, my mom raised us, both of us, to put our fears to the background and try new things. But I want to tell you a story that I've told this a couple of times, but not very often. Before Barack even, he and Mish were still dating. And it was the first sort of holiday where he was around our family. And it was Thanksgiving. I remember this very clearly. And it was at my mom's house. And my mom's house is small, but we'd have the whole family there for Thanksgiving, and it was a whole lot of people there. So I'm being the big brother, and I go over to Barack, and I like him by now, and I know Mish likes him. So I'm like, let me help this brother manage these crazy folks over here. So I say to him, I'm like, hey, Barack. So what? I love your background, and I'm being Mr. Big Brother. And at this time, I hadn't gotten into coaching yet. I'm working in investment banking, so I'm pretty full of myself, thinking I'm got the world by the tail. I'm like, so what are your plans? And he said, well, I really think I'd like to be a politician. And he said, and I said, what do you mean, like running for alderman or mayor or something? And he said, I think I'd like to be like a congressman or a senator and maybe even run for president. And before he could get the whole word out, I was like, bro, shh, you don't want to say that too loud. Folks will think you're crazy over here. Yeah. And lo and behold, that right there was that was me showing fear. But then I started watching him and following him, and then we all were working on the campaign, and I was thinking to myself, by the time he gave that speech, I was like, this dude could be president.
Yeah.
So I was less fearful because we had that discussion way back when. And he was like so serious, and I was thinking, this dude is crazy. And what I shared with Mom and Mish both when they were sort of poo-pooing the idea is it would not have been fair for either of them or any of us to penalize Barack for being really good at what he was doing. And that's for men, irrespective of race, but for Black men to sort of emasculate them because they're good at what they're doing is just, I was like, you can't do it. You just can't do it. This is all of us. We just, and my thing was, he might not win. I was proud. I was worried, but I felt like if my dad was alive, he would have been saying what I would have been saying. He would have been like, well, it's going to be tough, but you can't not try to do it.
It's funny, in our age range. We did not have helicopter parents. Our parents were sort of like, you go out. My mom just warned me about the white van. Stay away from the white van because that's the kidnapper. And anything else was pretty much, you just went and you did your thing and then you came home at night, and that was sort of how parenting happened. When I'm thinking about Michelle, your daughters in the White House, like I'm not talking about helicopter parenting. I'm talking about like helicopters. Like they are literally having to deal
helicopters and guns.
Yeah. And yet they still grew up to be these normal, accomplished, lovely when nobody's looking, which I think is the true testament to a person. How difficult was that to raise your daughters in the public eye under constant threat, total scrutiny all the time, and not let them absorb it? What kind of a force field or human shield did you have to invent for them? Because what you did was unprecedented.
Well, it took a lot of intentionality. I don't know if you remember when Barack first came into office and the question was posed to me, what's your agenda? And as a person who had held a job and run nonprofits and been an associate dean and on and on and on, my work agenda was easy. I was going to have a very clear, robust agenda on issues that mattered. I knew how to do that. That wasn't a thing that I thought. And I thought that people knowing my background, my education, would just assume that I'm going to have a really active First Lady's office. So I instead focused on the thing that I really was worried about, was mothering my children, because that was really my first priority, especially when we first moved in. So I made the mistake, I guess, in some people's eyes, to say that I'm going to be mom in chief. I'm going to focus on making sure that they get settled. I'm going to spend a lot of time making sure that their lives are normal. A lot of that had to do with me bringing my mom to the White House and having another adult that I could trust, who shared the values and understood how to raise real, live, responsible human beings. And they had their father there, who had managed to show them love and joy, even with this busy career. That was my first priority. And surprisingly, women, feminists, supposedly said that it somehow was selling out. And that kind of surprised me, because I thought that many women as mothers would understand how difficult it is to raise whole people. That, even while we do jobs and we change the world, in my view, that remains my most important job on this planet. So how did I do it? It was always my priority. And when your kids are under the security of Secret Service, you almost have to work twice as hard to make their life normal. I mean, imagine setting up the first play date. With the first time the kids get invited to a play date, and the process of having my children at your house meant that an advance team had to come and question and search your house and ask if you had drugs and guns. And my advice was always, don't lie. It's okay for you to have them. They just need to know where they are, that these men are going to sit and come and go in shifts as these 10 and 11-year-olds are playing in your backyard. And to figure out a way to do that with humor, so you're not scaring off friends, that takes some work. So that meant that I had to put myself out there. I had to go to the school. I had to be a parent. I had to meet other mom friends. I had to go to the soccer games, and I had to bring the snacks. And get to meet people and know which of those families that we could trust and who were the people that were making the friends with the girls because they sincerely had a good friendship, or who were the people who had other intentions. That was a lot of work. And it got harder as they got older, because then they became teenagers and they had to drive and they had to go to prom and they were on teams and they traveled to other schools and they had to do college searches and they went to parties and they had drinks and they tried out smoking and they did all the things. And every weekend was a nightmare. Because we had to work to make sure that them being regular teenagers didn't wind up on page 6.
Right.
So it was a lot of work, Kelly, and a lot of intentionality.
Even though I know it's hard, you made it look easy. What we saw made it seem like it can be done. It's doable. All good, important things are worth doing.
And what you know it as a mom, that part of what we do to create their stability is that we have to make it look easy for them. I mean, I spent a lot of my time telling my girls that this is fine. This is normal. Just ignore it. Just move on with your life. You know, imagine us going to a parent-teacher conference, because Barack went to all of them. You know, we lived on Mass Ave. Well, we had to go down Mass Ave because the girls' school was. But that was one of the things I was like, you have to keep showing up, even with all the hubbub, because they're little girls, and you went to their parent-teacher conferences before this. So imagine the presidential motorcade blocking all of Mass Ave from Pennsylvania Avenue all the way down to Sidwell Friends with 12 motorcycle escorts, the 10-car motorcade, along with the ambulance and the helicopters flying around, pulling up into the school parking lot and having the Millie and Sasha horrified.
That's what
oh my God, Mom.
Because the kids are embarrassed when their parents come to school.
There are snipers on the roof. They're blocking Mrs. Cherney from getting into the lot. And I'm like, I know, but your dad is here for parent-teacher conference. Ignore it. Just keep going. This isn't about you. He's the president. This is your dad's job. You know, just put a face on. You know, nobody cares about you. So I'm trying to make this feel normal to them, you know, because you don't want them to start thinking, number one, they're full of themselves, that any of this is about them.
Right.
And that their job is to go about their lives. This world is not about you. This is just your dad's job.
And I'm sure there's tons of pressure also on being, you know, not just a good student, but an exemplary student. You know, there's almost that unfair curve of you have to be better than the best because this is what is expected of you.
And we call that the Obama tax for them. You
Right.
know,
Of course.
It's like you'll have it the rest of your life, but you also have a lot of benefits. And let me just say that having my brother, his family, my mom, you know, having them come on a regular basis and having the White House feel like our house on Euclid Avenue, because it's not the house, it's who's in it. My brother, my sister-in-law, my nieces and nephew, they help to stabilize things. And I'm grateful that they were willing to be on that journey with us.
It's a remarkable one for sure. Have you all now, Craig, you still have 2 little ones.
Yes, I am a charter member of the ODC, the Old Dads Club. So I've still got a 9th grader. So this was the first year of high school, and a 7th grader. So we've got 5.5 years before we become
Empty nesters.
Empty nesters like the rest of the rest of our friends.
Which is the greatest, which I don't mind telling you, it's the greatest thing ever.
It's so good.
It's so good. I
can't even imagine it.
Oh my
I'm like,
God,
I can't believe we spent so many years raising these kids because look at all the fun we could have been having.
And they're so expensive.
They're so expensive.
God.
No joke. No joke.
Expensive. I was never interested when my kids were young in being their friend. I was like, I'm not your friend. I'm your mom.
Let's just give you a
Yes,
Thank you.
that is
Thank you, Kelly.
that's
My
a
gosh.
Marion Robinson-ism right there.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
When my kids were little and my friends would be like, oh, my daughter's my best friend. And I'm like, well, she can't be, Rose. She's 11 and she's psychologically not right. She can't be your
my
best
girls
friend.
always said that my favorite saying to them was, I'm not one of your little friends. And they'd say that, I'm not one of your little friends. I'm like, why are my friends little? I said, because they are. You're little, they're little,
Yes.
and we're not friends.
Correct. Now, have you crossed into the phase where your children are becoming your friends?
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah.
And that's also a good thing.
It's nice.
It's really, and let me tell you, I loved mothering. You are right. My kids have been really amazing. I have enjoyed every phase of it, but I love the phase where their lives are their own. Mm-hmm. And that means their choices, their mistakes, their successes are all theirs. And they do really well. When you hand kids their lives and they practice owning their own choices, they do live up to the expectations. I try to say that to young parents out there who are making the mistake of helicoptering and trying to befriend their kids. It's like kids want boundaries. They want you to believe and trust in them. And when you do that early, it makes this phase amazing.
And also letting them make mistakes. Mm-hmm. You have to let them make mistakes. It's like, you didn't do the assignment. You didn't do the assignment.
Yeah.
Well, but can't you run out to CVS and just buy the cardboard and maybe you can help me?
No.
You didn't do the assignment. I mean,
That's right.
It's like you gotta learn the hard way sometimes. Sometimes the hard way is the only way to learn.
That's right.
And I think that it creates resilience. It's harder when kids grow up a certain way.
Yeah.
Like the lack of the struggle becomes the struggle in a way.
That's right.
But if they got to a point in their lives, they're adults now and they're making their own choices and they decide they're going into an avenue or they're going to date someone or get engaged to someone that you didn't like, what happens? And this is to both of you. What does that look like? Will you stuff it down? Will there be a side conversation? Is there a family group text that excludes the one person? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so both of our older kids' partners are absolutely wonderful. So to your point, Kelly, if you allow them to make their own mistakes and learn from their own mistakes, when the mistakes don't have as high consequences. My mom used to always say, you have to practice making decisions. And she would let us make our own decisions on the little things. And it prepared us to be able to make decisions on the big things. And I will tell you, as from real life examples, anytime, and you know this, Kelly, with your own kids, and I know Mish knows this with her kids because we all have suffered through it. As soon as you act like you don't like one of their partners, they start moving
glue.
Closer to them
Yes.
just to stick it to you.
It is glue. It is a binding agent.
It is. It
Yes.
is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to think that our kids kind of made some mistakes early on. And what I see today with parents, especially parents of athletes, but parents in general, are trying to curate this perfect experience for their kids where absolutely nothing goes wrong. And that's not real life. And then they get to college when they're away from you and they have their first taste of adversity and they lose their minds. My mom and dad, we used to talk about that at the kitchen table all the time. We'd have meals together and just talk about the mistakes that folks made and the mistakes that we ourselves made and how to learn from those. And I'm just happy that our two older kids have found partners that we just absolutely adore.
Yeah.
So good.
But in short, I think, you have to keep your mouth shut and
So
and let
hard.
them
So hard
let them
sometimes.
live.
Okay, Mom. That sounds like my mom right there. Okay, Mom.
Keep your mouth shut. Talk to
your
your
mouth
friends. I'll pick up the phone and call Craig and be like, "Did you meet that dude? Are you okay with that?" You know, I'd spend a lot of time with my kids making these noises. Really? Wow, that's interesting. Say more. And I have to work because obviously, as our podcast indicates, we have a lot of opinions.
Yes.
So one of the things that helps is that when we want to get messages to our kids, a lot of times we'll tell each other.
Yeah.
Or we'll talk, the cousins will bring things up. Or if we're all together at the dinner table, we'll throw something out there that is on topic and sort of say, and discuss, right? And a lot of times you don't have to say anything.
Yes.
It's so
because
true.
Someone else will say exactly what you're thinking. And it, like you said, Kelly, they'll hear it differently if it doesn't come from mom and dad.
So true.
Right?
That's what I
The
have.
same
Albert. I have Albert
piece of
for
advice.
that. Albert is my trusty
Albert.
assassin.
Let's see Albert.
Where's
can you
Albert?
put yourself
Let's
up
see your
on the
face,
screen?
Albert.
What's going on?
There's Albert.
Hey, Albert.
Hey,
Bye.
He's right next to me.
Yeah,
by
right,
the
we're
way.
right here.
We're really, literally. That's more
Next to another poster.
I'm looking at this stuff. I go, you know what?
So many posters.
The Obama and the Consuelos kids, this never would have passed the Secret Service test.
Oh my
They
God.
would have been
really?
like, look, we didn't find drugs or guns, but there's a whole host of weird shit in that house. So tell our listeners about your podcast.
The foundation of the podcast starts with a viewer question. Because in these times, I'm finding that so many people are feeling anxious, as I'm sure you are getting.
I haven't slept in a couple of months.
Yeah, that's right.
You should see my Aura Ring data.
Folks are lonely. Folks are isolated. And we grew up, as I mentioned, we problem solved as a family. We problem solved by sitting around a kitchen table. And I think because of social media, because of the remnants of COVID and the isolation that we felt, we're finding that more and more people don't have that community to help them problem solve. And they're trying to do it in a vacuum. So, we're kind of becoming that kitchen table for our listeners.
It's a good kitchen table too, because the proof is in the pudding. I feel like you two are so capable of doling out good practical advice.
Well, my big brother is a coach, has coached many people, has been a leader in his own right, a clear thinker, an inspiring figure. So, I think that he's a perfect partner to be at this kitchen table sharing advice. But we bring people in, too. We bring in experts. We bring in friends. We bring in other interesting celebrities and make it fun, because we also have learned that you learn lessons in a fun conversation. Like it can't be all stick and no carrot. So people need a little bit of a laugh, right?
That is a great
They need
expression.
My sister, it's hard for her to say it, but it's easy for me to say it. And just watching her evolve from being that little girl who used to ride her tricycle next to me and over for lunch in grammar school and sort of whole court. She's evolved into this person that everybody wants to hear from. And now I feel like everybody needs to hear from her. And I just enjoy egging her on to be out here helping folks. And it just is a real treat to have people on, have fun, and hopefully provide some pieces of wisdom that we've come across in our life to share with everyone to make their lives a little bit better.
You know, I think it's the right podcast at the right time. It really is. And we're just very, very grateful to you both for doing our humblest podcast. Jan?
Before we leave,
Oh my
because
gosh.
I'm a dream maker.
Okay, you're a dream
Henry
maker.
Winkler.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Okay, go with me on this
Fonz.
one. Okay, you know Henry Winkler, the Fonz.
Of course.
Of course.
Bonds.
So he did our podcast last season. And I said, Henry, you know everybody in the business. You've met everyone in the world. Like, do you have a dream? Like, is there a dream person that you are dying to meet that you've never met? And he said without hesitation, Michelle Obama.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's what he said.
You've never met him, Mish?
Yeah, no, our paths haven't crossed. I don't think he ever did any events at the White House. But that's
Maybe, would you
what?
like to give him, like, deliver a little message to Henry
Oh,
Winkler
man.
for us? Because
Henry Winkler. I mean, I am honored. Hey. But you know, you're more than the Fonz. You know, because he has been out in the world. He has good sense. He's among an elite group of celebrities who take a stand about the world and think about things broadly. So I am flattered that I am among the people that you would want to meet. So let's make that happen. Come on, IMO. Let's hang out. Let's talk about some stuff. We can figure out. We could spend some time together, and I would be thrilled to meet you.
our youngest son had a dyslexia and dysgraphia, and Henry grew up having dyslexia and wrote a series of books about it called Hank Zipser. And they were really like big in the LD community. Like if you had a child with any learning challenge, these books were like Hank Zipser books were the thing. Yeah. And he's such an advocate for other people. And I just think, so I was shocked when he said, I've never met Michelle Obama. And I think when I think about you, I think of you being such an advocate for kids. And I think of him as being such an advocate for kids. And now Jan is applying for a job to be the talent booker for IMO, which is great. So goodbye, Jan.
Thanks, Jan. Bye, Jan. Let's get that done. Let's get that booked.
Anyway, we really appreciate you. Craig Robinson, Michelle Obama, thank you so much. Make sure you check out their podcast, IMO, wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Great
Kelly. And the crew, you guys are awesome.
And your gang.
Got the best gang. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right, much love.
Much love to you.
Soon.
Bye-bye. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Guys.
Wow.
How fun. How great was that?
That was amazing. And they are adorable together.
Oh my God.
I don't know if
Mish.
you noticed. Mish. I don't know if you noticed the way they looked at each other when they were talking about the other person. Yeah. They are the real deal. Well, that's all we've got for you. How do we wrap this up, Jan? I don't even know how to wrap it up.
Well, that's it. We can't wait to talk to you all off camera next week.
Oh, thanks. That's it?
And guess what?
What?
We're going to be live.
Live.
Oh, we're live next week?
Live next week.
Shit. Let me get all the cursing out of my mouth.
You can curse.
On the radio?
Yes.
What's our episode going to be about? It should be about orgasms. And we should all speak with German accents.
Be all about sex.
I think it should be all about sex. It's a drive time hour, and people are going to tune out and listen to some. They're just going to listen to music if we don't capture them with sex. So it should be all sex and the perverted kind.
And we're going to post the phone number on the Let's Talk Off Camera Instagram account so people can call in.
Oh, people can call into our
Anyone
sex
People
chat?
can call in. Is that scary?
No, you should call in, especially if you have sex questions for Jan. She's going to teach you how to fake an orgasm.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
To yourself.
Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Seth Gronquist, Roz Therian, Devin Schneider, Michael Halprin, Julia Desch, and Team Radio Andy, Lisa Mantaneo, Scott Marlowe, Jake Getz.